We're narrative creatures, and ideology is more powerful if you have a strong narrative. Me being against interpretation, someone that's heavily into psychoanalysis, it's mainly anti-narrative. You follow your ticks and your slips and your absurd reoccurrences. So they're weird fragments, and you can keep them plastic in motion, keep your desire in motion, not fixing them. Being too fixed is neurosis, and actually you want to go towards some place of play. I work on the floor primarily and only put stuff on the wall for lack of space, but it becomes this kind of inside of a mind where the skin is covering every surface. I just literally pour the paint and embed stuff into this gesso. So there's a staining process, a collage process, a hand painting process. I'm thinking about sedimentation of fragments materially and conceptually, like historically, and how they contribute to mutability of meaning. So I'm using some repeated motifs for this show. Instruction manuals of how to do basic magic, poetry books, and forensic books. When I see these magic tricks, it just feels like that's the cold, hard functioning of something that can seem elusive. There's this really crude abstracting of information and the subject, and that's how I think about this kind of strategic removal of like forcible removal of histories and context and events. For the white grounds upstairs, there are specific fragments taken from that Blake poetry book, Songs of Innocence and Experience, and forensic captions that are interspersed between the works. I'm thinking about the format of image and text, the poetic and the literal, and how actually these formats are quite similar in these books. So I'm thinking about how the language merges into each other and it being held together in this membrane, which is the skin of the painting. The floor for me is like an invitation to go inside a vessel. There's a sensorial engagement. Just like feeling that texture or noise under your foot, it does something to how you see things. I was thinking that how to kind of reverse the kind of context of viewing. So it points to all the things that have been violently removed. So it points to those absent figures, histories, labor. I'm thinking quite literally about Gaza. I'm thinking about that removal from the map. And I'm thinking about that in terms of like a suffering body or a subject that hasn't been granted certain rights. And it has to do other things to get to a place of autonomy and agency. I want to go from the other way, you know, from the worst place. There must be like some kind of way out. I think the wound has the capacity to be a sublime void and to turn back into something unnameable. This idea of distance is the thing that would allow you to kind of internalize things differently, this abstraction or this kind of inspection or forensic inspection. You almost don't need any context at all, but you can like spend time with it and like pick apart those fragments. But they fail to fully come together. But then from afar they do cohere, which is like the kind of magic and the alchemy of like the paint, of sound, and any kind of compositional understanding.